Where's Liz Bird's face?
Hey, Liz.
Are you hiding from us?
Omar, I'm going to send you an email. I have a place where I want to put the sign at Hemisfair for St. Paul Square.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay. Just going to start tagging up Hemisfair with St. Paul Square stuff.
You think it's a good time to get started? Okay. Well, thank you everybody who's tuning in and joining for our panel for San Antonio Startup Week, Reactivating Retail and Entertainment in the Downtown. I'd like to take a second to introduce our panelists that are joining us, all amazing leaders in real estate and public spaces. First, we have Omar Gonzalez, who leads Hemisfair and real estate. We have Lisa Hernandez with Riata and St. Paul Square. And LAURENCE with Zurich Properties. So first, to really just set the table, as you all well know, it's been a very challenging climate for real estate and especially retail tenants. Prior to COVID, there had been, the sector had already been very unsteady with e-commerce and Amazon changing how people shop and use retail space. But once COVID hit, as states implemented lockdowns, sales plummeted, and retail tenants have really been struggling to thrive and keep up with rent payments. One of New York City's largest landlords, Vornado Realty Trust, reported that 80% of their retail tenants failed to make payments on time in April and May of 2020 this year. Over the summer, the Independent Restaurant Coalition stated that 5.9 million restaurant jobs had been lost since March, and 85% of independent restaurants were at risk of permanently closing. And according to Cushman Wakefield, 57% of US retail tenants can be categorized as small businesses, and they predict that 20 to 30% of those businesses will not survive the crisis. And at a 20% failure rate, that means that over 1 billion square feet of retail could be vacant over the next year. And so I'm really curious, to hear from the panelists, as landlords and as kind of citizens of our downtown, what has your experience been? Maybe Omar, starting with Hemisfair, you have a great relationship with a lot of your tenants. A lot of them are local businesses. Since March, how has that experience been, and how have they been holding up?
Yeah, thanks, David. It's probably about as dire as the numbers that you say. And I think probably hit a little bit extra hard in San Antonio is that a large part of our economy depends on tourist dollars and even within that, convention business. And so those two things, obviously, in the hospitality sector hit really hard. So I think employees is the other one. And that's kind of an interesting model where a lot of the businesses that are reopening are having problems getting back the employees that they used to have. And I just read a report today that just over 50% of employees have gone back to the business that they were in. And of that 50% that hasn't gone back, something like 35% of them probably won't. And so you're seeing either a fear of, catching the virus, or you're seeing people who probably don't make enough more than they make in unemployment to kind of justify coming back to work. So definitely a huge pressure on small businesses to stay open, and then beyond staying open to actually kind of generate sales and pay rent. So yeah, those numbers you quoted they're definitely real down here on the ground level.
Thank you, Omar. Lisa, how have things been at St. Paul Square?
Yeah, so St. Paul Square is unique, like all these developments, and it's a downtown east side redevelopment. We were just on the verge of reemergence. We had gotten TERS money, and we're unique in the sense that we have event space, we have retail, small businesses, and then we have office. And so what we've seen that has been probably the biggest challenge is traffic. We had always started with we're going to attract locals first, and that is going to be our mantra. But the convention business obviously was a big blow to lose that, but to also lose, you know, a little bit of what Omar said, that fear of people coming out. You know, even though we have open patios and open environment, I think it was very challenging to get just our locals out here. And so we've had some really silent days. The protests, I think, you know, were interesting too, right after the lockdown ended. And so we're starting to see some of that traffic come back, and that's exciting. But that has been our biggest challenge so far.
Thank you. Laurence, what about from your perspective?
So first of all, very grateful for you guys to put this together. 110 Broadway, you know, that Houston Street Broadway corridor certainly made front and center news because of the protests / riots. Every one of our tenants, at least one of them, had a window out. 2 of them got completely devastated. You know, most of those, quite honestly, are dark. They either can't afford to hire employees, they don't have any source of revenue really from that. So yeah, that street has been terrible. So on the other side, we've looked at it as an opportunity. If the attitude is, you know, we're all going down in the ship, you know, nothing's going to work and nothing's going to germinate. We actually do have retailers in other sectors, especially our food and beverage, that if they had, again, the right attitude, they looked at it as an opportunity. One of them has actually exceeded numbers that they projected prior to COVID. I mean, leases that were signed before. So businesses that were suffering before, let's just say they were either mismanaged, didn't have the right funding, you know, those are either about to die or will die if landlords are not extremely understanding and have the ability to weather the storm financially. Because like I've said to you, David, this is a time money thing. So some of the restaurants that we have shut down, but then again, there was the attitude from them was, you know, we want you to do everything for us. And there's got to be a win-win situation for both sides. So we've actually replaced most of the retail that has come available. There is demand. And I call it shucking oysters. It's trying to find that pearl with all the folks that are out there. So we're very bullish. All the damages have been repaired. We actually have a vegan bakery, or sorry, not vegan bakery, a vegan vegetarian coffee shop called Lucy's that's going in on Houston Street. That's about to start construction. We got a ghost tour operator that's under construction. We have a clothing retailer. Now, you guys talked about, I mean, the folks that had the hybrid between bricks and mortar and online presence, those are the folks that have survived, in my opinion, and are thriving. So divide and conquer. I'm actually wearing one of their Guayaveras. You know, they're opening at 110 Broadway and replacing a tenant that was struggling. So there's no playbook. It's just day by day you're learning. And I'm learning from everybody else as well.
Absolutely. And you know, I think the panel started off fairly gloomy, but this is San Antonio Entrepreneurship Week. And I'm curious from your perspective, you know, all of your perspective, in the future over the next few years, what kind of business models get you most excited? You know, the retail space, especially ground floor retail, is not going away. And there will always need to be a need for activation, foot traffic, and to bring our downtown back to life. So the question is, who are the right business model, or who are the right businesses and business models to best leverage that? So have you seen either in your current kind of network or just nationally, globally, different models that get you excited, saying, you know, I would love this type of tenant, this type of business to come and have as a partner?
Yeah, without a doubt. I celebrated the divide and conquer Dunham. Love Javier and his stuff. I did a customized Yavetta from him too, but that's a unique offering. He offers the ability for you to customize your clothes and to do it in a really cool and authentic way. I think those type of retailers will be successful in the future. I think the ones with fervent following, right? And so, you know, one of my new favorites, if you will, is Shinola, you know, Detroit company. And, you know, it's all about kind of that Detroit pride, and they make really good quality stuff. They now have locations in a bunch of other cities. I don't think they're in Texas yet, but that's kind of an example of someone with a fervent following. I think Lisa alluded to this, outdoor comfort, kind of the one big takeaway from the pandemic is that it just feels a lot safer to be outdoors. So if you can do outdoors the right way, and the right way in San Antonio is, you know, shade and cooling devices, it's going to work. I think it's going to be popular. You know, we're really fortunate, right? Because a lot of the kind of Midwest and East Coast are going to be really affected in the winter because they have to be indoors. This is our time to be outdoors. And so, you know, you see kind of 70-something degree weather coming on the horizon. And then I think the standard stuff, which is like exceptional service, and you think of, you know, the models of places that you go that have great service, they will always do well. That's kind of the mainstay in retail, is if you can win service, you can win customers, and they'll stay. So.
Yeah, 100%. I think San Antonio is so resilient. When you see what Portland's downtown and Denver's downtown looks like right now, you know, despite us not having the foot traffic we had this time last year, we also have a very clean downtown. People have come together. You know, we see new art installations like what Johnny Hernandez is doing, you know, with Day of the Dead and some of those art pieces. So San Antonio is very resilient. And so we do have, it's such a positive piece. With St. Paul Square, interestingly enough, we have, we used a little bit of this downtime to do construction. And so, like I said, we had some of that TERS money. So we did a whole new courtyard. We rehabbed our current St. Paul Square courtyard. Sunset Station is going through a name change. So we actually redid the entire front depot lot of Sunset Station, which will now be called the SB, and transitioning over. And we added 25 parking spaces. We redid our outdoor pavilion space to make it more inviting. Our restaurants use this time to Toro's restaurant. They actually redid their entire inside bar, and they actually are opening up a second location November 3rd. It's called Quiche, and it's going to be a play off of Mexican Central Mexican American cuisine. Lawrence mentioned Lucy's Bodega. So Lucy's is actually opening up. They were doing construction at St. Paul Square, so they're opening up in a couple of weeks as well. We have a sushi pho restaurant named Suck It that's just opened up as well. So it was a really weird time because our small businesses are suffering. They are hurting, and it is bad, but they just use the time to work with us as their landlord and try to get construction out of the way and kind of be ready for whatever, you know, the next wave looks like, or whatever the next season looks like. And what we did is really enforce the outdoor spaces, you know, getting the right patio furniture, the right audio, lighting. We needed that to be working as in the best quality possible, because they have amazing food and service. And so complemented with a great environment, I think has been the most positive thing to happen.
And you had mentioned, you know, multiple times, foot traffic is just, it's such a thorn in everyone's side right now. And I'm downtown right now, and, you know, I've been coming into the office for the last, 2 weeks, and it's such a strange imbalance because there is demand. You know, I come in the morning, I want coffee, want a breakfast taco, you know, want lunch, and there's only, you know, Pinch is open, Royal Blue is open, Buns just opened up, which is a fantastic new hamburger place. But, you know, but at the same time, all those businesses are struggling to be open because there's just not enough people. And so how do we inspire confidence and, you know, win that public trust to start coming back downtown? What do you think needs to be in place in order to get people to feel comfortable coming and on the streets again?
So I personally think the confidence is there because my family, we live in Alamo Heights. The suburbs rebounded because people live there or they're working from home there. So, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I really think the confidence is there. And I think people are choosing wisely where they want to spend their money based on relationships, number one. I mean, if you had a great relationship with a restaurant before, you know, I think, you know, those top 5 restaurants that you normally go to that you love to, you're probably going back there. But you're also looking for that new experience. And like you said, I mean, every time I open up my email, pretty much on a daily basis, somebody else is opening. So, I mean, there is a bullish environment for sure. I mean, you just mentioned, you know, Buns just opened up. I mean, you got there before I did. You know, yesterday I ate at, you know, Project Pollo, and man, was that terrific. I finally got around to going over there. You know, over at Hackberry Market, the weekends over there are packed. You know, we have the cameras and stuff. So I've got 3 kids, so my social life is pretty close to zero, but, you know, we keep tabs on what's going on. And I'll tell you, all of those tenants are paying their rent and pretty much on time. You know, the Magpie has they're super foodie. I mean, but, you know, great reviews, Truth Pizza, all of those tenants are doing well. Now, yes, some of their hours are a little funky, and that can get a little bit frustrating if you're saying, look, I like to eat lunch at 11 or 12. Some of them aren't open. You know, we go from 3 to 12 or whatever they're doing. So that's kind of funky, but, you know, they're paying their rent, which is great. And even people like Black Laboratory are selling out of these, you know, limited edition, you know, funky beers that they're doing. These, I mean, things that I probably wouldn't drink on a regular basis, but there's a following there of folks that want and really embrace those concepts. So getting them downtown, I think, is a question of getting those local tenants to give them the confidence to open up, like Divide and Conquer. I mean, he's coming from Southtown, close to.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is having the confidence to get to replace the tenants that were basically dependent on tourism and conventions with a good chunk of local.
Yeah, and Omar, for Hemisfair, which, you know, I'm a resident there, so I've gotten to see kind of the experience change. Now, how is that process? I mean, because, you know, not only are you the anchor in kind of that southeastern corner of downtown, but then you spill into Southtown, and I've been really impressed with South Alamo and kind of the resurgence that's happened. You know, Rosario's has been open all the way through, and then we've had, you know, that whole strip towards the end of the street, you know, 1102 being most notable, and that place has done extremely well. But kind of from the Southtown perspective, how is the, like, what are some of the shining examples so far?
Yeah, no, I wrote down Camp Outpost on South Alamo. They did a beautiful job with great outdoor finishes, managed by the folks that are at Piatti's and the Quarry. And then Frida right next to 1102. I think 1102 as a concept is really smart. It's coffee shop during the day, wine bar at night. And then, you know, you've got Meashley and Farm Table moving into, you know, that kind of, you know, the old Steel City Pops across from Rosario's. And so, yeah, I kind of echo Lawrence. I don't think the businesses have stopped moving. I think what we're starting to now see is people feeling a little bit more comfortable going out, and definitely more comfortable outdoors. And you can kind of feel that if you just drive around San Antonio. Everyone with an outdoor patio, they've got folks in it. Probably less so if you're a full indoor, sit down, to kind of dine in service. But I would say at Hemisfair, and you've probably seen this outside your apartment, dead in March, very slow, kind of April through, June. We hit that kind of second peak in July. It got super slow again, July and August. And I would say September was kind of the start of the resurgence. And nowadays, I look out my window in the office, there are kids at Hemisfair. Kids are back. Families are back. Our two retailers just reopened. So Commonwealth Coffee Shop and Dough Pizzeria, like Lauren said, kind of, they're playing with hours because they're trying to figure out demand. But they're reopened, and last weekend they had a decent crowd. So I think inspiring confidence is going to come most notably in downtown through office. So like getting people back into the office, which is probably, harder said than or harder done than said. And then again, the convention and the hospitality world and kind of getting that. And I hear there's some hotels that are getting up to 70% occupancy. It doesn't feel like it. I think as a whole, we're probably, hovering below 50% occupancy. But I think that will start kind of building that momentum where people start to feel like, it's safe enough to do their activities.
And from the, oh, sorry, Lisa. And from the city's perspective, city, county, what do you think, their response to COVID, I guess, not to put anybody on the spot there, but I guess, have they been supportive, and what could they be doing now? Obviously sanitation and the public health, we still have to be very vigilant there, but what can they be doing to support small businesses?
St. Paul Square has seen a phenomenal amount of support from the city and county, whether it was through the CARES Act and funding some of our retailers and office tenants. Again, we have 30,000 square feet of event space. And so for it to sit vacant while these really cool and fun, interesting restaurants are opening up is not good for us. And so we started to get really creative and think outside the box. So we have Macbeth playing, here. Classic theater can no longer play indoors, due to regulations. So what we're doing is we're now we're having them outside in the pavilion, and so that's one way. And so how the city's helping us is development services is allowing us to have events and tell us how the rules are. How the rules can be adjusted to an outdoor pavilion and patio space. And so it's very cool. And so we've enjoyed working with them.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. The part that I think gets frustrating is the rules and the changing of the rules, and whose rules are we following, and how are they defining bars, and how are they defining restaurants? And there's a lot of complication in kind of understanding what the rules and regulations are. And so like from our perspective, there's a lot of frustration too, where, I think it was the front page of the paper the other day is all these people at Fiesta Texas with their masks off, but we can't throw an event at Hemisfair that has more than 10 people. And it's like, well, how did that come about? And like, where's the line? And I don't know who's going to take it, the city, the state, or the county. And that's part of the confusion, right? Is kind of who's in charge of what. But normalizing what the rules are, I think, would be something that would benefit small businesses and public spaces.
Omar, you had mentioned that new ordinance. Maybe could you explain, what is that? So moving forward, there can be no more public events of more than 10 people not approved by the city?
Right. So you're allowed to apply for an exemption. The rules for applying for the exemptions is you have to apply at least 30 days in advance of the event. You have to have a singular point of entry. You have to have temperature checks, hand sanitation stations. It's very prescribed. But then you go to Pearl and they have a farmer's market, and I don't remember, any of that happening when I went to the farmer's market 2 weekends ago. So I just don't understand where that, again, kind of how is that applied generally, and then how is it enforced across, so that we're all kind of dealing with the same rules?
Yeah, and you know, for the entrepreneurs out there, are there resources either locally or nationally that you would direct them to if you were thinking about launching a retail concept, or thinking about extending your e-commerce platform into a retail location? Where do you learn how to run a retail business?
I would say call them. Go to, people that you admire, their concept or them. I think personally, Centro has done an amazing job. They've been a great resource for our tenants that were running into issues regarding grants or funding or what's available. So finding that one resource, which in my opinion is, and I'm sure there's others, is Centro. And at least then they can direct the traffic. But I want to touch on another thing, because employment. Right now, you hit on it, David, earlier in the beginning, which was, so there may be another stimulus. So I remember going to Kimura 2 months ago when they, opened up these, I think for lunch briefly, and I talked to a lot of the staff there are pretty much the same, which I think is remarkable. And I asked the waitress and I said, well, how are you guys doing? She's like, well, it's really slow at lunch, but it picks up at, dinner and on the weekends when people are drinking a little bit more. And I said, well, did you receive any supplemental income from the government? She said, yeah, I did, but I got really bored. I wanted to work. And I'm going to tell the folks out there that are on their couch collecting a check, your employer is going to remember you holding them over a barrel and going, well, I just don't feel like working. Because the people that are working right now, that are going out there and running a little bit of a risk, sure, like we all are, your employer is going to remember that. And when things, come back to normal slowly but surely, they're going to remember that Betty or Mike came in when they probably didn't have to. And you know what? There's going to be a management position, or maybe that one day there's a part ownership position. They will remember that. I promise you. Get up, get out, make a difference. The other thing is, the government entities, all the organizations, whether it's the Riverwalk Association or tourism, we need to find the people that are driving. I'm not saying people aren't flying here, because I'm sure they are, but we need to get the people, like you guys said, that are willing to come downtown. And I know the splash pad isn't open, but to go to the park. How many places can you go downtown for a day and satisfy the entire family? You can go eat, you can go drink, you can wear out the kids, you can go to the Riverwalk, you can go kayaking now. There's so many different things you can do. We need to get the folks that are on the surrounding areas to come down and have an experience. The lights are going to turn on soon. Those are those things that aren't being, we're not going to have the river parade, but we're still going to have the lights. And we're going to have that spacing, which is so important.
Yeah, we've talked, for a long time about, how do we further strengthen our relationship with Austin? And they are 70 miles away. That the families, all the growth in Austin, it is so easy to bring your family down to San Antonio for the day, have lunch at the Pearl, St. Paul Square, come to Hemisphere. And I do think that's a huge opportunity right now where, a lot of the Austinites have been locked in place in Austin for the last 8 months. And they're looking for some diversity in their life. And it is not hard to make a day trip into San Antonio.
And it's very economical.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what else, what have we not touched on that you think is important for us as we think about, one thing that comes to mind is we've talked about it from the kind of the landlord perspective, but parks, public spaces and kind of reactivating like Hemisfair. But where are some opportunities in kind of city-run public spaces? Do you think it's too early to start programming, start bringing people together, events? I know the Conservation Society had caught some heat for that, but is it too early to bring people together?
I think you can make. I was gonna say, I think you make the offer, right? Like you create it, and then people decide. I mean, you know, everyone needs to be responsible for their own decisions, right? And so I think by creating a program and having something for people that want to experience it, I think that should happen. And then, you know, people decide, and, you know, if you show up somewhere and it's packed and you say, this isn't for me, then, you know, then it isn't, right? Like there's, you know, everyone has kind of a different risk tolerance, but I don't think that should predicate a no to everything.
Agreed.
Yeah, the mayor, I mean, the mayor, I think, said it best. He said, you know, we got to learn to behave in this new environment. And I think that's one of the reasons he pushed forward on the Conservation Society event. Like I said, we've been starting to do events, and we require masks, and we have rules and we have regulations. We're doing a night market tonight where everybody's required to wear a mask, but there's 36 vendors out there. It's a Halloween themed night market, and we have 100 people under the pavilion watching Macbeth. And then, you know, tomorrow's the UTSA game. So there's going to be people out here, you know, tailgating and following the rules that TABC and the governor has set and city has set. And so people want to go out. Our small businesses need to survive, and we need to figure out how to do it the right way for the next 12 to 18 months or until there's a vaccine. So I think we are voting, you know, yes, obviously, to start doing things in moderation, and to even maybe partner with some of our districts. You know, when I go outside and need a break at St. Paul Square, I walk to Hemisfair. I mean, you know, it's such a short walk, and doing, you know, continuing that connectivity between Southtown, Hemisfair, St. Paul Square, Houston Street, Broadway, that's going to be key for our people to take a Segway or a bike, or, you know, however they want to come around and enjoy all of our districts. I think we all have amazing things to offer for peoples of parties more than 10. So it's, yeah, I agree with starting to bring in some events in a safe way.
And
I think
go
ahead, David.
No, Lawrence, please.
No, I mean, I really, again, echo that and I'm not saying the leadership from our city, but I'm saying the leadership issue has been, in my opinion, the greatest problem. Who do you listen to? Because nobody wants to get a fine. Nobody wants to get their name printed in the newspaper. But, you know, I think 99% of the people that own bars and restaurants and these restaurants or these retail areas that, you know, are having people congregate. I mean, if you're popular, people are going to congregate. But I think the job of TABC and the city is enforcement of the rules, but don't slap people, don't insult people, you know, let them know, give them warnings. Hey, you know, this is the first time that we're giving you this citation. This is a warning. We want to educate you. And then I think it just progressively, it's a question of keeping records and go, look, it's going to get really bad and really painful for you financially if you do not listen, because you're affecting every other business when this happening, when this happens, especially with the bars, the pure bars, which again is just a quagmire. But I think if we all can just behave and get educated, the people whose responsibility it is to uphold that, we will get through this, because this is not going to go away. I think this is going to continue on for quite some time. This is going to be the normal. Let's just try to get through this until this vaccine comes through, but it's still going to take a year.
And have you seen a movement back to food trucks? I saw a San Antonio Report article about cruising kitchens and how busy they had been, but have you seen a kind of a renaissance there?
Me personally, I haven't seen like suddenly a jump, but it doesn't surprise me because, you know, our love affair with food trucks began, you know, many years ago when we were traveling in Portland, Seattle, when that was really becoming a thing. That's a way for let's call it the average person to do friends and family and credit card money and cut their teeth at a restaurant, you know, slaving away for years and years. And they're like, okay, I've got a great idea to do truffle something. And now they can actually do that and they can test that. The other big thing that I think is happening is these ghost kitchens, which I think is going to be very interesting as well. not only at a local level, but at a national level. You know, the Chipotles of the world are starting to do these things. I mean, there are people raising funds for this stuff. So I think it's a great way for folks to keep literally that physical distance, but still operate and try to get that concept out there and learn during this time, so that you eventually end up in a bricks and mortar, which I think is the way most of these folks want to end up. You can only do so much in a food truck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. I think the food truck success is usually when it kind of creates a district or a node, you know, versus like one truck parked, you know, in a street. And so, you know, an example of that is, you know, what's the name of the bar just on the east side of 37? Burleson, like Burleson Yard. Like that's an experience. And then you have a food truck pull up. You're like, awesome. Now I can get some really great, you know, tortas or tacos or whatever. You know, the one out at UTSA. Have y'all been to Chicken Pickle yet? Raise your hand.
No.
Super cool concept.
Yeah, it's big.
Super cool concept. And it's all outdoors and, you know, feels safe and distance. And we hit up the food truck just on the other side of UTSA Boulevard before that, and it had a good crowd. And so I think when you can kind of, again, create that experience that we've been talking about, you know, that separates it from kind of, you know, online, you know, Amazon experience, I think those food trucks will be successful. And some of them just put out amazing food. And the thing I love about food trucks is it's very specialized, right? So if you're like craving, you know, one type of food, you can just go to food truck and know you're going to have a good experience.
Yeah. Broadway News is a great example of a kind of a pop-up, yeah, you know, semi-private or semi-permanent retail experience. You can get your coffee, you can get your carne, you know, you can get a haircut. I mean, that's a really great shirt. So yeah, I mean, we love those types of concepts. And actually one of the pieces that we did 3 years ago, El Bujo, was based on, you know, having food trucks, having the ability to corral your kids literally physically, have, you know, a family friendly bathroom so that you could change two kids if you're a single parent, or, you know, and they have done a terrific job over there of satisfying the food wants and then the mixed beverage license. I mean, that was, it was a very challenging project to get done. But like you said, when you're able to offer many things to many people in a district, or, you know, the Strip, I think you synergize that energy from all of those people working together.
Yeah, I think it's finding those, you know, how can we create those hubs, whether it be St. Paul Square or Hemisfair, and, you know, where people are gathering, and then businesses can come and find those synergies and come to the people. Shameless plug, we're opening a new park downtown to get excited about, right next to the Frost Tower. And so this has been on my mind a lot, thinking about, you know, how can we create a safe space where people can feel comfortable coming back down into the office, creating some diversity, have free Wi-Fi, barbecue, a whole lot of good stuff. So
you're doing it. I mean, I really, and I've been following, obviously, the pictures. I mean, that gives hope when people are excited to go to, you know, that new restaurant when it opens, and that park, and I really believe the best time of the year is coming for us. It's not going to be 80, 90 degrees, and we've really got to capitalize on that. People have the COVID, you know, fatigue. They want to get out and do things. And so I think it's just a question of letting them know that, and getting the city support to encourage that and make people feel comfortable, and to educate them at the same time. So yeah, I mean, we all need to shamelessly plug all of our tenants. I didn't know there was a sushi place on St. Paul Square. I mean, if they're open for lunch, I'm there next week. That's what we have to do, is just spread the word.
Right. And when you talk about the park, I mean, there's so many options too. Like, we started Wednesdays just for Halloween themed, the movies in the park, you know, I mean, there's 25 people out there, but that's something, you know. And we have the Baldwin that's right across the street. So that's 250 plus, you know, residents, and the Fedora. And so people are begging for those type of things. It's about getting the word out the right way and not overpopulating it. But I mean, people are looking for it. So it's going to be a great addition.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, so much of it's awareness. The demand, I think Laurence, you said it earlier, the demand is held steady. And there's a lot of opportunity for businesses and entrepreneurs. We just kind of have to work collectively over the next few months through this new normal to figure out what's the responsible way to bring people out. And I think that'll be the biggest challenge over the next couple of months, but the opportunity is there. I feel strongly about that.
David, it's been my dream to have this event that I think you can pull off. It's called a silent disco party.
Oh, yeah.
And so everyone gets a set of headphones. Yeah. And so everyone's dancing, but there's no music. It's just in your headphones. And it's got to be the weirdest thing to see from from a non-participant.
I think we can do it in the park. Actually, the light poles have kind of like a disco light setting as well. So we could make it happen.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, really appreciate you taking this time on a Friday afternoon. I mean, is there anything else, any last words for the audience?
I think buy local, like think of local first. I know there's a ton of options from, fast food chains and other chain restaurants, but if you can think locally, support locals, it just goes a really long way, not just for the economy, but for people's lives. I mean, you're literally affecting someone's life when you're able to buy and support locals. So please, and I highly encourage that.
And I think that's what makes it unique. I mean, every one of our projects or areas that we've done development, St. Paul Square and Hemisfair, I mean, is all local, except for, I think the barbecue places out of Houston. I mean, let's just call that regional. That's what people want. They want that local experience. And when you can come downtown and surrounding areas and get the greatest pizza at Dough or at Truth Pizza or Kimura Ramen, these are all, in my opinion, extremely authentic experiences. And you've got them in San Antonio. I'll put them up against any concept in New York or Chicago, which I mean, we all love those cities. But you've got it right here, people. Come get it.
Yeah, well, just to plug the barbecue place, it's Pinkerton's out of Houston, voted one of the top barbecue restaurants in Texas. So that's something to get very excited about.
For sure. When are they opening, David?
Still TBD. We're working on it, but soon, probably over the next couple months.
Great.
But those are things, support local. I mean, that's definitely, something that we should be doing. And I think that's part of the San Antonio resilience. I think that was one of the first campaigns, San Antonio strong, support local. And so I continue to think that that's going to be what's going to set us apart as a city in an urban downtown core. But, I mean, Pinkertons, I mean, they could come out and do a pop-up at St. Paul Square, at Hemisfair, on Broadway. I mean, we want to support everybody. And so those are the things that we should, be talking about. Just let's be a little bit of innovative. We get really busy in our own projects. I know that, but, if people have ideas on how we can, do pop-ups or build some more connectivity, or maybe there's an event. I mean, that's what we need to do, is just, be as innovative as we can and partner together and promote each other. And so that's what this is all about. So we just keep doing it.
I think if we stick to our guns, which is this local experience, the national retailers that are looking to penetrate these markets in an authentic grassroots manner will seek us out, and we want to embrace that. I mean, I don't think we want to be, shun them, but we definitely want to show them what an authentic or local city can be. For example, I mean, we have a food truck spot on one of our parking lots that's set up literally for food trucks. The electricity is there. We've got water close by. We've got trash. So, and at this point, it's like, it's free. If somebody wants to come do something fun, call us. We'll set you up. Just bring your energy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what, if people don't realize it, you should everybody is very accessible right now. And
Yes.
I'd say landlords are more creative and more open to anything. So pick up the phone, call, reach out. We're down to go collaborate. Like Lisa said, this is the time for innovation. So if you ever were to be entrepreneurial and you're ever, looking to be creative, now is the time with opportunity. So I think, we're coming towards the end of our time, but really, really appreciate everybody's time. There's a lot of good things, a lot of good opportunity for the future. I think all of the kind of macro things that people are looking for in a city, San Antonio has. And so I think we will be downstream with a lot of these positive trends. And so it's being in the right place at the right time and, being aware. So it's a good time to be an entrepreneur in San Antonio, I'd say.
I agree.
Echo. Yeah. Well said.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Have a great weekend. And thank you everyone for joining.
Y'all stay safe. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, David. Nice to see you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.